welcome to episode 40 of Created by Design. Today I've got several things again to share with you. One of them is I have finished the lion, and I had a granddaughter by special request wanted the lion to have a little pink tutu, and so we have the little pink tutu. I was very pleased with the way the lion came out in spite of some silly little things that I did. Number one, the first thing that I did that was really a major faux pas is I got the head all done, everything sewn together, and I was sewing the eyes on, and I realized, oh, this is white up here, and this part of the face is supposed to be yellow. So what I did is when I started knitting the head, I just didn't read the pattern very closely, and I made the assumption that it started out with the body color, which is the yellow. Well, it really starts out knitting this section here first, and this is supposed to be white, and up here is supposed to be yellow. So all of it was sewn together at that point in time, and I just thought, this little lion is going to live with that face. I'm not going to change the colors. It'll be uniquely different unless you do the same thing too. I hope not. That's why I'm sharing that read your pattern closely. I didn't. But other than that, I'm pretty pleased with the way the lion came out. The other decision that I did decide is I kind of like the hair, the mane, random, and I didn't shape it. I see a number of people do that. They really trim the lengths. These lengths are all the same, but in the pattern it looks like she has shortened them up and made them a little tidier around the face, and that's cute too. But I just kind of like the randomness of how her hair goes. Looks like maybe she's been dancing a lot or something, and so I'm leaving it very random. One of the other things that I discovered is, I don't know about you, but I was having trouble with my buttonholes, keeping them small enough for this littler button that I have. It's the same button that we use for the eye. And I've made it work. I just would reinforce around and kind of close it up a little bit. I guess I just got tired of doing that, and so I found this 5/8 inch button, and it's perfect. So for the rest of my clothes that I make, I think I will be using this 5/8 inch button, because the clothes, I don't have to reinforce that buttonhole. They stay closed nicely. One other change I did, this outfit actually is the one that's supposed to be for the elephant out of the Knitted Wild Animal book. That's the book 2. This little skirt was to have 3 layers, 2 underskirts and then the 1 outer, and I knitted it, and I even had it attached. I was going to do the first layer in blue. But it made the skirt so heavy that it just was bulky. It certainly made it stand out a little bit more like a ballerina skirt, but I just thought long term the weight of that I didn't like. So I took it off, and I have another little skirt for another little critter already made. So that's what's going to happen there. We're just going to leave that second inner skirt off, and it's kind of clever the way that these are all attached together. I liked her design. I thought that was really good. Made a little ballerina boots, air shoes, and I think she's pretty cute. Now in the next segment of the video, you will see where I've just started the lion, working on the legs and the body, and talk more about that. So you'll see that part now. Here is my lion's body, and I'm going to show you now how I am attaching the arms and the legs. I had shown you in previous videos how I had done them by attaching them by 2 rows. And I've discovered that I actually can do it in one singular row. I was a little hesitant to do it in 1 row in the beginning because I thought, well, maybe it wouldn't be strong enough if I just was knitting this into the body on 1 row. But I've done it now several times and I find it very sufficient. So you can see here I've attached 1 arm already, and this is exactly how I attached the legs to the body, knitting them right in as I go. So obviously when I start a body, the very first thing I do is knit up the legs and the arms so they're ready to attach when I get to the proper place in the pattern. So I'm at about row 71 of the body. That's where I've chosen to knit in the arms. And what I've done is I've divided my stitches in half, and I've put half of the arm stitch to the front and half to the back. So I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's exactly how many I have here on my arm, but I have them in 2 rows at this point in time, so there's actually 14 stitches here. And the first thing I do is to close this up is I'm going to knit these stitches together, and I'm going to do that by the 3 needle bind off method without binding off. We're just going to do a part of that method. I actually had this all closed up and I thought, oh, I need to make a video of that, and I had cut my yarn, so I don't have a really long piece of yarn here to work with, but it's enough. So I working with the Flexi Flips, love them because they're just floppy and they bend down out of my way. I don't get anything for promoting Flexi Flips. It's just that they've been life-changing for me. But whatever needle works, whether you're using on double point straight needles or circular needles, you can figure out what makes this work. And remember, I knit continental style, so if you throw your yarn, you're going to have to figure out how to do the knit these stitches together, but the needle direction probably is about the same. So first of all, I'm going to knit the stitch off of the front needle to the first stitch off of the back needle, and I just simply get in there and pull that through, and that's usually what happens on the first go around. Well, I'm not too proud. I take my little knitter's tool here, which is nothing more than a short crochet hook with a pointy end, and you don't have to have that pointy end, but boy, do I ever seem to use it quite a bit. So I find that if I feed that in backwards, so the point is coming towards me, so the hook end is out here, I just have gone through the front, just like you would with your knitting needle, through the front stitch and through the back stitch, and grab that yarn and pull it through. That's my first stitch. Now, I can't leave it on my little tool here, so I'm going to slip that out, and we're going to put that on my knitting needle. So let's see if the first one is always the one that's a little pesky. This is a little fiddly, but I like doing this better than doing sewing the arms onto the body. So I've gone back in through my front. Well, it still wants to slip off. So, let's just go with what works. Use my little pointy tool here, and I'm going through that back stitch first with the point, now through the front stitch, and that gives my hook to be back here so it can pick up that yarn and just pull that straight through. And now I'm going to slip that onto my needle, and I'm going to snug my yarn down, and I have to slip these 2 stitches off of my needle. There we go. And Let's see if I can do it with the knitting needle. Often it works, but you know, when you're on video camera, you would just be surprised how naughty things can be sometimes. Okay, that went smooth almost. Just split the yarn. There. Okay, I hope you can see that. I brought that through, slipped those 2 stitches off of my left needle, and I'm building them over here. So what was 14 stitches is becoming 7 stitches. Well, try that again. Get out here to the end. Because I'm working with a short piece of yarn, that's not being very helpful. There we go. And let's see, got a little split in that stitch. We'll clean that up. Pull that through. Okay. I love it when things go smooth. Let's see if these last few stitches do. Yes. And the last 2 stitches with a very short piece of yarn. And that one didn't come through like it was supposed to, so we'll just try it again. You know, this is not the natural knitting position that we knit when we're sitting in our nice comfortable chairs. I'm having to hold my hands out in front of me to keep them in the video camera, so that always makes it awkward. But there's my stitches. Now on one needle, there's the end of the yarn. I've knitted over here to where I'm ready to add this second arm onto these shoulder stitches. And so when I undid this, because I had it all done, I see I didn't take enough stitches back. I've got to bring my live yarn back over to this end, so I'll slip those through right now. So I'm just taking these stitches right here off of these 7 back off. So my yarn is over onto the right hand side of these shoulders. This won't happen to you. It only happened to me because I had this knitted up and then remembered I was making a video about it, so I had to kind of undo part of my little critter. Okay, sorry about the dog barking. Probably wants to go outside. All right, my live yarn is over here, and these now stitches here are what's on the body, and these are my arm stitches. And now we're going to do just like when I combined the rows together here, we're going to combine these stitches with these here on the body, just the same way with those 3 needles. And here again, if it feels awkward and not pulling through, use your little knitting tool. Okay, so that's the first stitch through. There we go. On the right hand side is that stitch. I'm going to go back through the first stitch on the left needle, that would be the arm, and then pick up that first stitch back here, that's the shoulder, just like we did previously. Okay, and just kind of make sure you're snugging up your yarn so you don't have any really long stitches here. I think that's the secret to make that all lay and look nice. Okay, just a few more stitches here, and that arm will be attached to the body. And it's best if you just take your time, not get in a hurry. Okay. Sorry when I get outside the camera, don't mean to do that. All right, it's coming together nicely, snugging that up, making sure you got nice tension there. a little tighter tension than what you would normally knit with. Keep all these extra little ends out of the way. That's the end piece from the arm. And this is our last 2 stitches. And of course that arm yarn loosened up a bit. And I'm just going to tuck that inside for right now. I'll be going back and snugging that up and making sure that, oh, I completely went off of camera, sorry. I'll be snugging that last stitch up and tucking that, put a needle on this and secure it in here before I close up or put the head on actually. And I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment about putting the head on. So now I'm just going to finish knitting around to the end of this row, and that arm will be sitting on there pretty securely. So we're just going to continue knitting that row, and I think that row is row 70 or 71. I think it's right where there's 3 rows of knit. Okay, that arm is on there and that looks pretty smooth. You don't have a seam. You have a little ridge on the underneath side from previously putting those 2 rows together, but it's under the arm, never shows. The top looks nice and smooth, just like the legs do. It's a nice smooth transition there, and it seems to be very secure. The previous ones that I made this way turned out really nice and seemed to be nice and secure. These end yarns off of the arms, you just want to make sure that you weave them in and do that fairly securely. And I'll finish doing a couple of rows and I will be calling that good, and it'll be ready then to, when I get the head done completely, which it is, and I'll show you that here in a minute, about how I go about connecting the head to the body. But that's how I knit in my arms, very similar to how I did it before, but I'm just doing it all on 1 row now instead of 2, and it's just it's a little easier, not quite so fussy. So there you go, and now we'll move on to the head. So let me show you, I've left a little opening in the body here. This is to stuff with, so it's, I don't know, just enough to get my fingers in there and get stuffing down in and kind of tamp it down. So I will do that before I probably get the head all attached. So I'm going to finish my couple of rows here, and then I've gone and gotten the head well, I've totally knitted the head. Wanted to talk a little bit about that because I actually am getting some questions about these heads in the second book, because they're very constructed very differently than the first book. I think she's done a very clever job in figuring out how to make these heads. Pretty ingenious, really. So one question that I'm getting is, do these start at the neck? It's kind of hard for some to visualize where the actual starting. So this is the cast on. So it's really at the back, the back of the head. And so there is a seam that will be sewn up right down here all the way to almost where the purling stitches start. So here it's upside down at this point in time. So here's the snout. So this would be the underneath jaw line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing from both ends. I'm going to come up this way and I'm going to close this up here, and I'm going to come down to what looks like the same amount of stitches that I could pick up that I have here at the top of the body. And then I'm actually going to, just like we did with these arms, I'm going to incorporate that 3 needle knit together method to attach this head onto here. Or you can actually use a needle, thread your yarn and onto a needle and pick up a stitch here and then pick up the stitch off of the body and bring those two together that way. It's a little awkward, but it's a nice finished job when you're done with it. So whichever way that works, whether you actually use knitting needles to bring this two together, maybe a crochet hook or a needle and thread, but that's how I attach my head onto the body. I do not close this completely up. I do not close this up, because if you've watched any of my earlier videos, I actually use a reinforcement, and I think I talk about that on episode 30 and 31. I make a stiffening that I put in the neck opening that actually goes up into the head about an inch, and I put that in as I'm closing this up to the body so that it's all nice and secure. So I will have put some stuffing in the head at that point, completely stuffed the body so it's firm like I want, or to whatever tension you want on the stuffing, and so that when this neck gets closed up, my body is really done. And I just find getting all of the seams, like this opening back here on the body, having that all closed up, it just kind of helps hold everything in place when I actually attach the head onto the body. So her pattern has you cast on the stitches that really start up here at the back of the head. And I believe that that is the way all of the heads are done in the second book. I haven't made all the critters. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant to say all of them are done this way, but I think they're done relatively similarly. So far, all of the ones that I've done have been done this way, let's put it that way. I find that really works for me. I like the fact that when you do that stiffening in the neck that goes up into the head, you don't have a wobbly head. The head holds its shape. There's still a little movement to it, so it's not like a stiff animal, but it's not floppy. It has good posture, let's put it that way. So I hope that part helps you about these little critters. The heads are a little fiddly. You just have to make sure you're counting. It's a test to make sure you're doing your SSKs and your CDDs, correctly to get the right lay of the yarn. But it's all doable. You just go slow, and the more of these little critters you make, the better you get at it. I say it's kind of like eating potato chips. You just can't eat one, and you're not going to just make one critter, and they become easier and easier. So I did want to tell you, because I'm having people ask me what yarns I'm using. I've used different yarns depending upon what colors are available in the sheep G's. I really like the sheep G's the best. That's what this white is. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it has a little bit of a fiber sticking out. This is acrylic, and oh dear, cotton I think is in here, but it's got some acrylic.
and it's very washable, but it's got a little bit of fuzz, a little bit of fiber. This is very smooth. This is Valley Yarns, 100% Pima cotton. It's very, very nice, but it's very smooth. I could not find a color that I liked for the lion. I also use this same color for the giraffe, and this is Golden Mist is this color. And otherwise, I would have used the sheep G's for the body, but they just don't seem to make this kind of a golden, or I've not been able to find it. So I've used these two together, and they work well together. But I have to tell you, I like the sheep G's. I like that little bit of fiber on this. I think it makes your stitches blend a little bit better together, whereas the stitches from the Pima cotton Valley Yarns, there's a little more definition, and that's okay. It's all fine. Why should I get so picky over a little critter that somebody's going to love on and enjoy? But just from working on it, I like the sheep G's better. So that's my catch up on my latest little critter. And I've got a little more. I haven't started the clothes, but she'll have, by special request, she's going to have a little, well, I think it's the elephant's clothes, the little tutu and little ballerina shoes. So we're going to make a little lioness out of her. So that's my catch up with that. I hope you're enjoying making your little critters too. And I've loved the questions. I don't know if I've always had the right answer, but I've done my best. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask, and we'll work out something if we can together. Thanks.
Next on the agenda is last episode I had started a throw using Fair Isle method, strand work, and I really wanted it to be a throw that was going to show off the colors. I wanted to play around with colors. And in that episode, I talked about choosing a design out of this book. And it's really a great design. I'm not going to show it again. It's in the last episode. What I discovered, and I should have thought about this, but I just missed it. The backgrounds were great, but the actual motif ended up being more of an outline and was harder to really show off the colors transitioning like I had envisioned in my mind. So I worked it up for about 4 inches and just thought, I'm not going to be happy with this long term. So I took those 4 inches out and chose a pattern out of Alice Starmore's book. I've used this book so much and I've gotten so many ideas out of it, but it's a pattern that's in here. And I would my description of it is a pomegranate, or I guess it could even be somewhat of a pineapple shape, but it's not so much of an outline. It has more stitches in the outer edges of the design, so it picks up the color better. So I'm using the background colors, staying with mostly the dark colors, and using the lighter colors, brighter colors for the actual motif. And this is the look I was after. I wanted to play around with color, and this is allowing me to do that. It's just a lot of fun. This is the steek here in the back that will be opened up when I'm all finished, and then I will pick up stitches probably and do a border similar to the outer border here. Also using ribbon probably to cover up that steek edge, just to kind of seal it off, and that's my plan at this point in time. But I am having a lot of fun with playing around with the colors. And what I do is I'll put some skeins together that I'm working with, keep it in my little bin here, and work with these for a little ways, and then when I change and variegate into something else, I take some of these out and add the new ones in. So I've got my colors right here in a bin, and I can sit this by my chair in the evening and have it real convenient to work on. And I'm really having fun. I love to play around with color, and if you've never done that, you know, I've built up a little bit of an inventory, so it makes it easy to do a project like this. But you could do it, maybe pick 5 or 7. I kind of like working with an odd number. I have probably, I'm going to say 40 at least, different colors maybe, to work with, so I can really get that variegated look. So that makes it kind of fun, but you could do a really nice look out of just using a limited amount of colors also. But this is a way that I just wanted to experiment with my stash, and so I work on it for a while and then put it away and work on socks or something else. You know, I always have several projects going at one time. So that's where I'm at with this project. The next update, and I'll show some pictures right now, is I have finished my lace, my yellow lace shawl, and I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. I'm really glad I got it done in time for being able to wear it this spring. I don't wear shawls a lot, but it's kind of fun once in a while to have one, you know, when it's not quite cool enough to go without your coat completely. It is kind of nice to have a shawl or a lightweight sweater, and so I think I'll enjoy this yellow shawl. I'm pretty pleased with how it came out, and it actually knitted up faster than what I thought it might knit up. So that should catch you up on my knitted projects, and then we're going to give you an update. My daughter will tell you more about that in this next segment.
Hi, this is Carrie. So I'm going to give you an update on what's happening at our house, or I should say Smallland Farms. That is my farm name here at the house. Mom and I decided that it would be easier for me to actually have some kind of a name other than, I'm going to give you an update on what's going on at my daughter Carrie's house. That's a mouthful. So in the future you'll hear about Smallland Farms. The background of that name means small land in Swedish, and that is an area of Sweden that my mom's family comes from. And they were also gardeners, and there's a history there with botany and all sorts of interesting things that maybe we'll be able to share at some point. But today I've been playing in the dirt. We're actually having a day without any rain, so I decided I had some things that I needed to get done. So let me take you on a little tour. Excuse the mess in the backyard. I have a lot of work to do, so here we go. Okay, I've got some cleanup in my yard, and like I said, forgive the mess. I have so much work to do out here. All of this grass is going to be pulled out this summer, so I'm not doing much with it right now. We've had so much rain, I need to come out and mow it down real quick. But what we have here is, in this pot is a brand new rose bush, and this was a gift from my parents to my husband, who recently lost his mom, and so this is a memory rose in her honor. It's a Mr. Lincoln. It'll be deep red and very fragrant, so I'm very excited about that, and it'll be a really nice memory for my husband to have of his mom, who also loved roses. So planted some sage and rosemary today, which I needed for my herb garden. I also planted 4 new rose bushes. You can't really see them. They're bare root roses. I've got one right here. I've got one right here. Real small. And I put these I shred up a bunch of grapevines today and just put down around here. But this is a brand new start. Another one there. And then this one here, which is the Queen Anne, or I'm sorry, not Queen Anne, Princess Anne rose. I have a thing for roses named after royalty. One of these is the Queen of Sweden rose, and then I have several in my front yard that are all named after royalty. It's kind of a thing I have. These daffodils I'm super excited about. These are called Orangerie, and I cannot wait till they fully open. I think they're so pretty. These are new in my garden this year, and I can't wait till they just continue to multiply and get bigger and bigger bunches. I love it. Hydrangea bush that I transplanted that has new growth, so I'm so excited I didn't kill it. I think that's fantastic. And then we have the ranunculus. These have been overwintering, and I did a little bit of weeding. I need to pick up the weeds, but these are all in these 3 beds. They're all different colors. Each bed has a different color. But interestingly, this particular bed that had the equal number of ranunculus corms did not germinate and do as well as the other 2 beds, and I'm not sure why that is. So, you know, I might try something different next year. Rather than overwintering them, I might actually start them indoors a little bit later than I did this past year, and get them a little bit more established so I can see what's really gonna take off and do well, and save on some of my growing space so I can put more things in. So got that going on. Brand new strawberry starts. I'm hoping that I didn't plant too many in this bed, but if I did, I can move some things around. And the squirrels have actually already been in here and digging around, which me and the squirrels are not friends, but we're trying to cohabitate together. So I took these 3 beds today, and I put cardboard and paper underneath to cover up the weeds. In this bed, I took some more of the grapevine chips that I chopped up today and laid them down, and then I'll cover the rest of this with garden soil. And these are, because they're pressure treated, these will be for flowers, not for anything that would be consumed as far as like an herb garden or you know, lettuce and things like that. This will all be flowers only. I have a bed here that doesn't have anything planted in it yet, but this will be a food bed. This is some of my garlic, and I've got more room to plant in the front. Excited about that. Got some new growth over here, and some tulips that are getting ready to come up, and I just need to cover all this ground and get rid of all these weeds, but you know, that will happen in time. But look at these daffodils. These are either the Winston Churchill or Replete daffodils. I need to go back and confirm which one, but I think they are so pretty. They are, and they smell fabulous. I just think that they're beautiful. They're so frilly, and maybe you don't like frilly things. I generally don't, but I do in a flower. So I just think they're so cool, and I'm excited that I have them. And these will just continue to you know, develop more bulbs, and I'll have to divide, and I'm excited to be able to share with some family and friends who may want some of these pretty things in their own yard. So that's what's going on there. Okay, ignore all the weeds, but I did get some bare root, some rhubarb starts. So I've got one here, I've got one here, and then also right here, and then I will clean up this area so that they have good growing condition and not all the weeds trying to overtake them. But I'll cover this area with some garden fabric and some wood shavings and stuff so that gets cleaned up. I've got these 3 beds that I've started working on. These will all be food beds, but I do need to start amending the soil and getting those ready for, I actually need to add quite a bit of soil this year to each of the beds. I'm going to bring in a load, and that'll be a lot of heavy lifting. Over here, this is my other garlic bed, and you may say, my goodness, why do you need that much garlic? And it's partly because everybody in our family loves garlic, so I'm excited to share. And I'm also hoping that I can hold some of this back and have garlic seed to restart next year's production. So I am trying to get to the point where I have enough extra so that I'm not having to buy things every year. I can actually save seeds and garlic cloves in this case to restart my garden. And these are all organic. Over here, I transplanted today some grapevines. In a previous video, I think I showed these. They were temporarily in my garden beds. But these are transplanted grapevines that came from a referral. My sister sold someone a house and they did not want the grapes in their backyard. They wanted to take them out and put a fence in. So we went and dug them up, and really glad to have them and hope that they do well. I've never grown grapes before, so we'll see, or at least none that have really done well. So with having these really established grapes, I'm excited to see what happens. So these three are the same kind, and then these two here are different, and I will need to put some heavy posts in and some wire to be able to prop up the vines and give it stability. That will be for another day. I'm gonna do that probably in the summertime, because they won't need to have that support right away. But this fence is in such bad condition, it's gonna get changed out this summer. And I'm just trying to leave some space so that we have room to work. This bed right here, and you can see the front, my very white trash fence that's also coming down and getting replaced. But this bed here is not, I just started working on it today, but it will be, these two wood frames will be used for the sweet peas that I showed a little bit earlier. I'm going to put T-posts in, and then there will be metal wire fencing down the middle so that the sweet peas have something to be attached to, because they do grow tall. And then I'll have 2 rows in each of these beds, so one on each side, and then the post and the fencing down the middle. And then further down, I'm going to cover that with soil, and we'll plant some other things. I took the commercial fabric and moved it over to the left. It was where this bed is. I moved it over, and that will be my aisleway, and again, leaving space for us to fix the fence, and then we'll clean up that edge as well. Over here, these beds have been sitting covered over the winter, and I'm getting ready to start working the soil and getting ready to plant, like all the snapdragons and the zinnias and the dahlias, all the things that I have starts going on. But this is what's happened over the winter, which I'm excited about. Nothing's growing, or not very much anyways, and that's what I wanted to have happen, is just to darken the ground so that it didn't promote new growth, and it'll be easier then when I start working the ground to be able to really work in the amendments that I'm going to need to work on with these beds. So real excited about that. And again, this garden fabric will get moved over so I have a natural aisleway, and then it'll be less weeding and mess than when I'm out here trying to tend to the garden. So that's what's going on. It really looks very messy, but I do have a bit of a vision, and I'm hoping that I can execute it the way I'm hoping. But I have a lot of projects this summer to work on to make this what I'm hoping it will be. So enjoy. Okay, so in addition to this first portable greenhouse that I've shown in previous videos, I also installed the second one. I'll give you a little quick peek as to what's going on inside. Lots of things. I have all my sweet pea starts that I've shown in previous videos. They're really getting to the point where they need to get in the ground, and I'm hoping that happens here in the next week or so. I've got to get the beds finished up that they're going to be going in, but I'm excited. Lots of different varieties, and I'm just I don't know, I'm actually kind of shocked that they're still doing well, but you can see, and it looks like they're all tangled up, and if I leave them too much longer, they will be a tangled mess. But right now they're not too bad. They'll pull apart pretty easily, but I've got to get them in the ground. This right here, these are dahlia tubers. If you're not familiar with dahlias, I am actually trying to wake up my dahlias and see which ones are viable. This is an example of a tuber that I actually could divide again if I wanted to. I think I've got enough I've got an eye here, and what you want to look for is you have to have a solid body, a neck, and some of the necks aren't real long, and then you have to have a viable eye. And on this particular dahlia, if I see 3 eyes, one here, and one here, those little bumps. And so if I wanted to, I could divide this into 3 separate plants, or I can just put it in the ground as is. So, but I'm trying to wake them up and actually pre-sprout them to get a little bit of a jump start on the season. But it also helps me know, because this is the first year that I've overwintered. Like, this is, it looks really shrivelly, but it, hopefully will do okay. But this is the first year that I've overwintered dahlias, and so part of pre-sprouting is so that I know if I have actual viable, successful tubers that overwintered okay before I put them in the ground and waste the space. So that's what's happening there. And I have several bins of dahlias. But then up here, I have a tray of surprise dahlias. These are grown from seed. And so there's 2 different kinds. And I have no idea what colors or what I'm really going to be seeing, but I'm excited about it. I think in previous videos, if you've seen them, once you grow a dahlia, if you grow it from the tuber, you know exactly which dahlia you're going to be getting, because they're named, and when you grow from the tuber, you get exactly what that tuber is. Whereas with a seed, you have no idea what you're going to get. They'll be pollinated, and then it's a surprise. So I'm actually really excited to see what happens. We've got some additional growth coming on here, so it's like waiting for a little surprise to happen. Excited about that. And then over here we have stock seed. I don't know if you're familiar with the stock plant, but they are really, really pretty. And each of these starts will have 1 flower. Like with the dahlias, those are, you can continue cutting and new growth will happen. Whereas with the stock, you get 1 flower per plant. So it's very common, I understand, for gardeners, for flower farms, to have a lot of succession plantings of stalks, so that you have new plants throughout the season instead of all of them coming on at once and then you're done. So excited about that. In this second house, I'll take you through. This tray here is just several different things that I have started that are not at the point of repotting into bigger pots. I'm going to need to thin out, for instance, this is yarrow. I'm going to need to thin this out. The black-eyed Susans, I'll need to do the same thing. Take the most viable and then retransplant, and then they'll go in my yard. So this is a whole new thing for me with the seed starting, and it's just really interesting to watch how quickly some seeds germinate and how long it takes for others to germinate. Like this Bupleurum, I've been waiting for these to germinate. I thought I was not going to be successful, but here we are, and we've got some that have not, and we have several that have. So we'll see what happens with those. Down here, a whole tray of snapdragons. They will definitely need to be thinned and retransplanted into bigger containers. I don't want to pull any and not use them. My plan is to plant all of this in my garden. I'm very excited. I've never grown snapdragons before, so I have 3 different kinds, and they're all real pretty colors. Here is a tray of zinnias. These are what we call cut and come again flowers, so the more you cut on them, the more they come back. I do need to get some fertilizer because I'm seeing that some have yellowing, whereas others are really green, and it's time to actually hit these with some fertilizer. So that'll be happening, and I will be doing organic for everything. This is Cerinthe. They're a real interesting purple flower. These are all going to go in my yard. This would be an example of something that would be a filler flower for me in a bouquet that I'm super excited about. And then we've got some different starts here with some lettuce and some summer squash, long beans, and some zucchini that have not fully germinated yet. So waiting on that to happen. Down here, I have a full tray of sunflowers. There's 2 different kinds, and they're both of them, they're not your traditional looking sunflowers. The one on the left side of the tray is this just incredible yellow, very full sunflower, and then on the right, and you can see the purple stems, these are actually purple sunflowers, where the real green leaves, and then in the center it's very purple. So I'm excited to see what those do, and I will probably start another tray because these are not branching sunflowers. This is similar to the stock. The stock flowers, once you cut the stem, they're done. So obviously there's a bunch of them here, but if I want to continue having production, I would need to do some succession planting. And then here, I don't know why I have so many of these, but these are all tomato plants. All different kinds of tomatoes down here. and I started them in trays, and then I separated them and put them in their own containers. Some of you might say, well, what a waste. Why did you do all these solo cups? And the reason is they were less expensive to buy a huge container of solo cups at Costco and drill a hole and fill them and use them, where I know that I can take them at the end of the season and wash them and reuse them year after year. I found this to be more economical than to buy regular planting containers, that you would see at a plant store. So this was my, and I'm trying to do everything as economically as I can. So this was my solution to that. But I am not putting all of these in my garden. These will be shared with family and friends, and probably anybody else who's really wanting some tomatoes. There's one here called a black strawberry. Excuse the plane overhead, but this is a black strawberry. This would be similar to like a cherry tomato, but it's almost like a blackish purple in color. I've never had them before, but they looked really, really interesting. And then this one here is called a blue cream berries, and it's almost like an ivory color, and it has some bluish purple on the skin. I thought that, and similar to like a cherry tomato, they're smaller in size. But I also have let's see, San Marzano. We're gonna do a bunch of San Marzanos so we can make some sauce, because they've got fewer seeds, and we'll cook up in sauce. And then this is very exciting for me. I actually, last year I had a big beef tomato that did really well in my yard, and I actually saved some of the seeds. I'd never done that before, but I figured out how to save seeds, and I replanted them this year. I planted the seeds, and I'll be darned if they didn't germinate. So that's very exciting. So I'll have those to share around. And then a couple of the other varieties. We have Romanesco. This is a Romanesco. And then this one is a Your Majesty, and it's a yellow tomato. So lots of things happening in the tomato family in our garden this year. And I'm getting ready to start doing the garden prep for that, and I've been watching some YouTube videos. I've never, last year was the first year that I had a tomato that really did anything fantastic. So I have been watching a lot of YouTube videos on different ways to prep the soil and get the ground ready for tomatoes, and so I'm getting ready to do that. And I'll be able to report back throughout the summer to see how those are doing in my yard. So there you go.
I hope you enjoyed that segment about Carrie's backyard, Smootland Farms. And we'll be seeing a lot more. It's amazing what already has happened, and it's still wet springtime here, but nature is continuing to grow out there. So it's kind of fun for her to, this new adventure for her backyard. So thank you for joining us in that adventure also. Have a good one. Until next time.